With a record of 26 wins and only one loss, Jones has dominated the UFC for over a decade. However, despite his dominance, there have been a few fighters who have come close to defeating him. Here are some of the UFC fighters who pushed Jones to the limit and nearly ended his reign. Starting off with Chael Sonnen, who faced the fighter at UFC 159. Although he may have been known for his trash-talking abilities, Sonnen wasn't able to back it up in the cage, as Jones knocked him out in the first round. But let's be real here. If that first round had lasted just a bit longer, Sonnen may have emerged as the victor. Not because of his fighting prowess, but because of a freak accident. You see, during the grappling exchanges, Jones got his toe stuck in the cage, resulting in a nasty injury. Had the round lasted just a few more seconds, the doctor may have been called in to stop the fight, deeming Jones unfit to continue. Now, this may not have been a conventional win, but it would have still gone down in history as a W for Sonnen. In fact, Jones himself acknowledged this possibility earlier this year during a heated Twitter feud with Sonnen, which has since been deleted. So while Sonnen may not have come close to beating Jones with his fist, he might have just gotten lucky with his toe. Speaking of toe curling experiences, Jones had the experience of a lifetime while facing off against Vitor Belfort at UFC 152. The legendary fighter was determined to defend his UFC light heavyweight title for the fourth time against the veteran Belfort. But in the first round, Jones found himself in a bit of a pickle. Belfort had landed an armbar that not only visibly hyperextended Jones' elbow, but also had the champion grimacing in pain. But Jones, being the true champion that he is, refused to tap out and fought his way out of the submission before putting Belfort away in the fourth round with a submission of his own. After the fight, Jones reflected on the experience, stating that he'd never had his arm popped like that ever before. But instead of tapping out, the fighter intended to let it break, adding that he definitely had a lot of training to do against southpaws. Now that's dedication. Imagine Jones fighting the rest of the rounds with only one arm. Now that would have been a sight to behold. But it wasn't just Jones who was impressed with his performance. Even the UFC president Dana White had nothing but praise for Jones, stating that it was without a doubt his best performance yet, even making an injured elbow look like it was perfectly fine. And that, in his eyes, Jones looked unbeatable. I'm sure we can all agree with that last statement. You don't mess with a man who refuses to tap out, even when his arm is on the verge of snapping in half. Still, when compared to Jones' bout against Alexander Gustafsson at UFC 165, it looked like a cakewalk. The two heavy hitters gave us UFC fans a treat when they faced off back in September 2013. Gustafsson, the Swedish sensation, put up a fierce fight, but ultimately ended up on the wrong side of a decision loss. Despite some believing that he deserved the win, the stats paint a different picture. Jones had managed to outland Gustafsson with 137 to 114 in terms of significant strikes, and had also clinched the key moments in the fight with smart striking techniques, even successfully overcoming being taken down for the first time in his UFC career. However, Jones would finally put the rivalry to rest later on at UFC 232 after claiming a second-round TKO victory. But let's be real, Gustafsson definitely gave him a run for his money, and the fight will forever be remembered as one of the best in UFC history. Who knows? Maybe one day these two warriors will cross paths again, and we'll be in for another epic showdown. But until that day comes, Gustafsson can take solace in the fact that he gave Jones his toughest test in the octagon for now, but it's still not the closest the UFC legend has come to losing, as his fight with Thiago Santos at UFC 239 almost earned him his second loss ever, managing to push Jones to the brink of defeat, earning the only split decision on Jones' professional MMA record. Despite tearing several knee ligaments in the first round, Santos still managed to go the distance against the champ, but even with 166 significant strikes thrown, he only managed to land 43 with a 25.9% accuracy. Jones, on the other hand, was much more efficient with 59 significant strikes at a 65.6% accuracy. While Santos had the advantage in volume, the champ fought a smart fight and ultimately claimed the narrow decision win. But hey, at least the challenger can rightfully claim that he gave Jones a run for his money and pushed him to the limit, even without a working knee. Now that's what you call a true warrior spirit. opponent. Unfortunately, Santos has not been the same since his injury, losing to Glover Teixeira and Alexander Rakic. Meanwhile, Jones faced his toughest test yet in his next fight. That is Dominic Reyes, who he faced off against at UFC 247. It's a question that has divided the MMA world. Did Jon Jones really beat Dominic Reyes at UFC 247?
For the winner by unanimous decision, and still the undisputed.
Some believe he did, including UFC President Dana White and a significant portion of fans, while others are convinced that Reyes deserved the win. On one hand, Reyes seemed to have the advantage, landing 116 significant strikes compared to Jones' 104, while also throwing 259 strikes compared to 166. Although his accuracy was lower, he appeared to cause more damage. On the other hand, the judges ultimately sided with Jones, who came alive during the championship rounds and managed to earn the victory on highly disputed scorecards that sparked a heated debate. Despite this, Reyes' fortunes have taken a turn for the worse since his bout with Jones, with losses to Jan Blachowicz and Yuri Prochazka. Meanwhile, Jones continues to reign supreme in the UFC.
5 seconds on the clock in a second.
He's got a choke.
Trying to choke him out and finish the fight here.
Lyoto's in trouble.
Trying to finish this fight. Jon Jones remains!
But if you thought that Reyes was his toughest opponent of all time, the fighter would respectfully disagree, as according to him, the hardest fight that he's ever had in his life was against the runner-up of the Ultimate Fighter's first season, Stephan Bonnar. The fight between Jones and Bonnar was a tale of two halves. The former, who was still a work in progress at the time, struggled against the latter's relentless pressure. In the end, Jones was even left hanging on by a thread in the final round, revealing his cardio concerns. However, it was also evident that Bonnar had been treated like a grappling dummy in the early rounds. Despite this, his heart and determination were unquestioned, and a few judges even awarded him the third round. Although the fight didn't lead to any meaningful conclusion, it was still a gutsy performance by Bonnar, and he can rest easy knowing that he was the one fighter who motivated Jones to start taking cardio lessons more seriously. And after being mentored by Greg Jackson and Mike Winklejohn, Jones has long since overcome his conditioning issues. You could argue that Jones is the legend he is today, all thanks to Bonnar. However, the question remains, does Jones truly consider him to be his toughest opponent, or is he using this to play mind games with the rest of the division? Only Bones knows for sure. But hey, that's all I had for fighters who managed to give Jon Jones a run for his money, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one.